McDonald's wants you to believe the Grinch Meal is a cute Christmas event, a harmless seasonal gimmick meant to make the holidays feel a little brighter. But if you look past the packaging and the green-colored marketing splash, something far more revealing is happening underneath. Companies don't pull out nostalgia-based stunts this aggressively unless they're trying to solve a real problem. Specifically, a revenue problem they can't fix through normal operations. And when a giant like McDonald's starts relying on childhood characters to boost foot traffic, you can assume the pressure behind the scenes is deeper than anyone at corporate headquarters is willing to admit. What's actually going on? The truth is simple. McDonald's needs bodies walking through the door. They need people buying add-ons, paying for upsizes, grabbing desserts, and building the kind of average ticket revenue that makes Wall Street happy. This isn't a fun seasonal promo. It's a signal that the core business model isn't performing well enough on its own. When margins shrink and customer visits decline, companies hunt for emotional triggers strong enough to override people's spending hesitation. That's what the Grinch campaign is designed to do, override logic with nostalgia. And the reason they're pushing nostalgia this hard is because food costs are still suffocating the fast food industry. McDonald's ingredients aren't magically cheaper just because inflation has cooled. They're still paying more for beef, more for potatoes, more for cooking oil, more for transportation, and more for labor. When these costs rise faster than the prices they can safely charge customers, corporate margins get squeezed. Investors hate squeezed margins. That's why the marketing department has to step in and pull off these psychological stunts. Because raising prices again would spark backlash, but doing nothing would result in flat or declining traffic. Fast food used to be the affordable option for working-class families, but that illusion collapsed years ago. The word cheap doesn't apply to McDonald's anymore. When a basic burger meal sits around $12 to $14 in many states, it stops being an impulsive treat and becomes an actual budgeting decision for millions of people. Families that once visited multiple times a week now limit themselves to maybe once every week or two. A parent buying 2 kids' meals and something for themselves can easily hit $30. That is no longer a casual purchase, especially in an economy where people are already juggling rent increases, grocery hikes, stagnant wages, and rising utilities. And that's exactly why McDonald's can't rely on regular menu items to drive sales anymore. People know what a Big Mac tastes like. They know what fries taste like. They know what to expect. The problem is not lack of awareness, it's lack of disposable income. The Grinch is not a way to introduce a new product. It's a way to emotionally manipulate consumers into spending money they're otherwise holding on to. That's where the nostalgia strategy becomes painfully obvious. The Grinch is a character recognized by every generation alive today. Older adults watch the original Dr. Seuss animated special. Millennials and Gen Z grew up with the Jim Carrey version. Kids today have the Illumination adaptation. That's a 3-generation emotional pipeline wrapped into one green furry character that triggers childhood memories faster than any standard marketing campaign ever could. Nostalgia is cheap to produce and expensive in impact, and corporations exploit it because they know it creates a temporary escape from economic stress. The real message behind the Grinch campaign isn't happy holidays, it's please come back, please buy something, please remember how fun it used to feel to eat here. The company is trying to plug a leak in consumer behavior that isn't solved by adding new menu items or adjusting prices. This is a psychological operation designed to remind Americans of a time when they weren't stressed, when eating out wasn't a financial strain, and when holidays actually felt joyful instead of exhausting. The Grinch symbolizes more than Christmas. It symbolizes loss, frustration, and the sense that something is being taken away. And inflation has done exactly that. It has stolen the simplicity of treating yourself without thinking twice. This is why the Christmas season matters so much to McDonald's. Historically, holiday periods give restaurants a bump in traffic. But this year is different. Consumers are hesitant, cutting back, and waiting for paychecks. Even with seasonal cheer, they're watching every dollar. So the company needs something more than a discount or a small promotion. They need a cultural spark, something that spreads on TikTok, something that gets people laughing, sharing, filming, and participating. The Grinch does exactly that because the character is iconic enough to carry its own viral weight. Organic virality is now the lifeline of any struggling brand. Paid ads are expensive. traditional media is weak. People tune out commercials. But if you put out a meal tied to a famous character, TikTok kids will record it. Parents will take pictures of their children with it. Influencers will critique it. Reaction videos will explode. This creates a wave of free advertising. McDonald's isn't buying attention, they're hijacking culture. What most people don't realize is that fast food marketing today isn't about selling the food. It's about selling the moment, the photo, the novelty, the limited time fear of missing out. Corporations figured out years ago that they don't need the meal to be good, they only need it to be Instagrammable. The Grinch Meal is designed to look good on camera, green colors, Christmas themes, bold branding. It's made to be posted, not enjoyed. And this entire stunt exposes a bigger truth. McDonald's is more vulnerable than they want to admit. When budgets tighten, fast food becomes the first thing families cut. McDonald's restaurants across the country have already reported slowing foot traffic, and even though corporate statements always put a positive spin on performance, real behavior inside stores tells a different story. More promotions, more limited editions, more cheap nostalgia. These are signs of a brand trying to maintain relevance in a market growing increasingly skeptical of its prices. This is where the Grinch becomes symbolic. Think about what the character represents. A creature stealing joy, taking presents, removing the magic from Christmas. Now imagine an American family looking at their bank balance in December after paying rent, utilities, groceries, gas, and winter expenses. The Grinch isn't a cartoon. It's inflation. It's wage stagnation. It's the cost of living ripping away the simple pleasures people used to enjoy without guilt. McDonald's understands this psychological landscape better than anyone. They know people are tired and financially drained. They know spending feels heavier. So instead of lowering prices, which would hurt their margins, they sell happiness in a box. Every major brand does this when the economy weakens. In 2008, nostalgia themed campaigns exploded because people were depressed, stressed, worried about layoffs, and searching for comfort. The early 90s recession triggered similar marketing patterns. When the fundamentals fail, emotional marketing rises. That's exactly what we're watching McDonald's do right now. They're not innovating, they're coping. And if you pay attention to the timing, it becomes even clearer. The Grinch Meal didn't appear out of nowhere. It launched at the exact moment Americans started openly complaining on social media about fast food prices being insane. It launched when TikTok videos comparing McDonald's prices from 2015 versus 2024 went viral. It launched right after surveys showed young Americans avoiding fast food due to cost. This isn't coincidence. This is damage control. The company knows perception is everything. If people associate McDonald's with being too expensive, the brand loses its identity as the go-to cheap comfort food. The Grinch campaign tries to overwrite that narrative with a different emotion, holiday excitement. But the most revealing part? This isn't even about selling a specific meal. The promotional items aren't groundbreaking, unique, or game-changing. They're ordinary. What matters is the story, the imagery, the cultural tie-in. The meal is irrelevant. The emotion is the product. And once you understand this strategy, the entire campaign looks different. It's not festive, it's not playful, it's not charming. It's a last-ditch effort to keep the brand emotionally alive while consumers lose patience with prices and long for financial stability. That's the uncomfortable truth behind the Grinch Meal. It isn't a celebration of Christmas, it's a signal of economic stress inside McDonald's and across America. And the deeper question is who this campaign is designed to influence. Because the real story isn't the meal. It's the people McDonald's is aiming at next. The people McDonald's is targeting with the Grinch Meal aren't just casual fast food eaters, they're ordinary Americans feeling the squeeze in ways most corporate statements can't capture. Rising food prices have turned what used to be a simple treat into a considered decision. Families are scrutinizing every expense, weighing whether a $12 meal is worth skipping something else later in the week. And when McDonald's taps into nostalgia, they aren't just selling food, they're selling a sense of relief, a fleeting emotional escape from the financial pressure everyone is feeling. But the deeper reality is far less comforting. These promotions highlight a country where even small pleasures require strategic planning, careful budgeting, and sometimes a little sacrifice. Inflation isn't just an economic term, it's a lived experience. Food costs have risen steadily since 2020, and fast food prices haven't been spared. Even as McDonald's markets the Grinch Meal as a fun seasonal indulgence, families calculating grocery budgets see it differently. Every dollar counts when wages stagnate. According to recent reports, consumer spending on food away from home has slowed sharply in the past year. Families are swapping meals at quick-service restaurants for cooking at home. And for those who still dine out, and promotions like the Grinch Meal act as a psychological bridge, making the decision feel justified. It's a small indulgence designed to mask bigger anxieties, a sugar-coated coping mechanism for Americans navigating rising costs. The psychological engineering behind the Grinch Meal is subtle, but deliberate. McDonald's knows exactly what triggers the purchase. Nostalgia creates dopamine release, which temporarily reduces the stress associated with financial decisions. But this isn't just about marketing cleverness. It's a symptom of broader economic stress that touches nearly every American household. Job security is declining, wages haven't kept up with inflation, and the cost of living continues to outpace growth in income. Many Americans are juggling multiple financial pressures simultaneously: rent, mortgages, student loans, medical bills, and essential groceries. Dining out, once a source of pleasure, has become a calculated expense. The Grinch Meal's appeal lies precisely in its ability to reduce guilt while encouraging spending, making it a tool to navigate economic discomfort rather than just a festive offering. The fast food industry as a whole reflects these pressures. McDonald's competitors are facing similar challenges with rising ingredient costs and labor shortages squeezing margins. Seasonal promotions and limited-time offers are the default solution when standard menu items no longer guarantee sales growth. The Grinch Meal represents a pivot towards cultural relevance as a sales strategy, acknowledging that the ordinary mechanisms of fast food business, price, quality, speed, aren't enough to draw crowds in an economy where people are forced to prioritize necessity over enjoyment. And yet, the data behind these decisions tell a story most consumers don't see. Foot traffic in Q4 is weaker than it was 5 years ago, despite aggressive marketing and expanded delivery options. Surveys indicate that budget-conscious families are increasingly evaluating the return on every dollar spent on food away from home. The Grinch Meal's viral potential isn't just entertainment, it's survival for the brand's seasonal revenue. If viral campaigns fail, there isn't a fallback. The base menu alone isn't sufficient to maintain growth in an era where discretionary spending is declining. The pressure McDonald's faces is structural, not temporary. Even more concerning is the symbolic weight of the promotion. The Grinch isn't just a character, he's a metaphor. In the original story, the Grinch steals joy from others. In this context, he represents the economic forces stripping everyday Americans of the simple joys they once enjoyed. McDonald's is selling a narrative of reclaiming that joy, but the underlying message is sobering. People need emotional incentives to make spending decisions they used to make automatically. The campaign is a mirror reflecting the fragility of middle-class consumption. It exposes the tension between corporate optimism and consumer reality, showing how marketing has to compensate for the cracks in economic stability. But the economic subtext goes even deeper. Americans are struggling to reconcile stagnant wages with rising expenses. Even before considering holiday indulgences, many households operate on razor-thin margins. Spending on a limited-time meal isn't just a treat. It's a decision with emotional consequences. McDonald's recognizes that the pandemic-era shift in consumer behavior, people prioritizing value and entertainment in their purchases, requires a new approach to marketing. The Grinch Meal is designed to provide that emotional payoff while keeping prices within reach, creating the illusion of affordability in a high-cost environment. Retail trends also illustrate the challenge. Companies that fail to understand consumer psychology during financial stress see immediate consequences: declining foot traffic, negative online reviews, and shrinking social media engagement. McDonald's, aware of these risks, leverages the Grinch Meal as a high-impact, low-cost intervention. It's designed to capture attention, spark conversation, and pull customers through the door at a time when traditional promotions alone would falter. The choice of character, the timing, and the viral potential are all deliberate, calculated, and precisely aimed at compensating for systemic revenue pressures. Ultimately, the Grinch Meal is more than a fast food gimmick. It's a barometer of American consumer sentiment. By analyzing its launch, execution, and reception, you can see where the economy is putting stress on households, which segments are most vulnerable, and how corporations are responding to a consumer base increasingly constrained by financial pressure. It's not just McDonald's problem, it's a reflection of broader trends in disposable income, consumer confidence, and behavioral economics in action. The stunt exposes the hidden struggle behind holiday consumption, showing how even fun products are intimately tied to economic realities. This isn't merely a story about a green-themed meal. It's a story about necessity disguised as indulgence, about a culture of spending shaped by stress, and about a corporate world increasingly reliant on psychology rather than price or quality. Families buy the Grinch meal not because it's revolutionary, but because it feels momentarily comforting in a context where comfort has grown scarce. And as you observe this pattern, the broader implications become clear. The Grinch meal is symptomatic of both consumer vulnerability and corporate adaptation in an economy under pressure. Every dollar spent on a novelty meal is a statement about the tension between desire and necessity. The Grinch meal works because it occupies that exact psychological space, where people want joy, but can't justify indulgence without narrative justification. And McDonald's is exploiting that space to its advantage, crafting a campaign that masks underlying stress with familiar characters, viral content, and carefully engineered scarcity. In this context, the Grinch is no longer a cartoon villain. He's a strategic tool in a larger game of economic navigation and corporate survival. By understanding this, you start to see the Grinch meal not as a simple seasonal promotion, but as a microcosm of how corporations respond to consumer financial pressure, economic instability, and social trends. McDonald's is telling a story about the state of American spending, even if they frame it as a story about Christmas. And for anyone paying attention, the emotional manipulation, the marketing calculation, and the economic subtext reveal more than a simple meal ever could. It's not just clever marketing, it's a reflection of a stressed consumer base and an economy that's forcing companies to rethink the rules. Americans are paying more for less stability, and corporations are responding by packaging fleeting moments of joy into consumable, viral-ready products. This shift doesn't stop at McDonald's. It's a preview of how other brands will adapt as inflation, wage stagnation, and economic uncertainty continue to reshape behavior. The psychological appeal is undeniable. Humans crave comfort, especially when the external world feels unstable. McDonald's knows that. The Grinch meal doesn't merely satisfy hunger, it satisfies an emotional need. Families who feel the pinch of higher food bills see the meal as an affordable treat, a tiny victory in a broader landscape of compromises. Parents can justify the cost because it's just once, and the character element taps into the nostalgia that most adults secretly long for in stressful times. This isn't accidental. Every detail from packaging to pricing to social media amplification is calculated to maximize engagement while minimizing rational resistance, and the consumers respond, posting, sharing, and participating in a narrative that feels communal and joyful even when money is tight. The trend extends beyond fast food. Retailers, entertainment companies, and tech brands are increasingly relying on nostalgia, scarcity, and viral phenomena to drive sales. Seasonal promotions, collectible items, and limited-time offers are replacing the old playbook of consistent value. McDonald's Grinch meal is just the most visible example of a much broader cultural shift. When consumer confidence is fragile, companies can't depend solely on price, convenience, or quality. They must manufacture emotional resonance to motivate spending. The Grinch meal taps into that perfectly, combining a universally recognized character with the promise of a small, affordable escape from the pressures of everyday life. Data supports the urgency behind this tactic. Fast food foot traffic is showing slower growth compared to pre-pandemic years, and social media engagement for traditional campaigns is declining. The Grinch meal leverages virality to offset these trends. TikTok videos, Instagram Reels, and viral memes all work together to generate visibility at minimal marketing cost. Each post reinforces the narrative that this meal is a must-have seasonal experience, encouraging participation in a cultural moment rather than simply a transaction. In effect, McDonald's is outsourcing a significant portion of its marketing to consumers themselves, creating an illusion of abundance and excitement in a climate defined by scarcity and caution. Beyond marketing mechanics, the Grinch meal reflects a structural challenge in American consumption. Even fast food, once a symbol of affordable convenience, is feeling the pinch. Ingredient costs have risen due to supply chain pressures, labor shortages, and inflation. Wages are stagnant, meaning families can spend less freely. Promotions like this allow the company to maintain relevance while subtly masking these pressures. For consumers, it creates a temporary illusion of affordability and fun, while in reality, economic stress remains the defining factor of everyday decisions. Looking ahead, this pattern is likely to intensify. As long as wages fail to keep pace with costs, as long as inflation erodes purchasing power, companies will continue to rely on emotional marketing to drive engagement. Character-driven promotions, limited-time meals, and viral campaigns will become standard tools, not just for fast food, but for the broader retail sector. The Grinch Meal represents an early example of what many corporations will increasingly view as necessary, turning consumer stress into a marketable experience. The very existence of these campaigns signals that companies are no longer confident that standard value propositions alone will drive growth. McDonald's strategy also foreshadows a shift in consumer expectations. When the baseline becomes scarcity and economic stress, consumers begin to reward products that deliver both joy and perceived affordability. Promotions like the Grinch Meal set a precedent. Other brands will need to offer similar experiences to maintain relevance. The outcome is a market where emotional storytelling and viral potential are as important as the product itself. Fast food, retail, and even services are entering an era where marketing must compensate for economic fragility rather than just inform or entice. Ultimately, the Grinch Meal is symbolic. It's a cultural artifact that tells a story about the intersection of economics, marketing, and human psychology. The real lesson is in the subtle manipulation of desire and perception that underpins every bite. And that brings us to a single unavoidable point. The real Grinch isn't in the storybook. It's in the economy itself, quietly stealing joy from everyday life, forcing consumers to seek comfort in fleeting promotions and viral moments just to feel a sense of normalcy. The Grinch Meal is a clever distraction, but it's also a mirror. The mirror shows a population stretched thin, an industry adapting, and a reality where joy is fleeting unless packaged, marketed, and consumed carefully.